Buenos días a todos. Yo soy muy feliz porque mi hombre, what? My brother, ¿cómo se dice?
Hermano, no soy tu hombre.
One of my best friends in the whole wide world. José Rubio is here, all the way from China, of all, even though his name is José Rubio. How are you, José? What's up?
¿Qué pasó, papi? I am here. I am good.
You haven't listened to video game music since the Super Nintendo.
I was super into video games back when the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo were rocking.
Well, so I'm going to give you a crash course on what I feel are really great tracks from the last X amount of years. And you said you like to listen to folk and indie pop, and you love Latin pop. And so I thought to myself, Latin music. And so I have a couple things here that I think you'll appreciate. So first up is Gerudo Valley from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It can't get more Latin than this.
I like Gypsy Kings. Yeah.
Gypsy Kings.
Synthetic Gypsy Kings. I love it.
I'm just ready for the mariachi to roll out, you know?
I know. I got my ukulele out there. Wrong finger. This one. There you go.
The horn harmony, yeah.
You got the trumpet harmony.
Unison movement.
Yeah. Like the clapping.
You're a Latino Americano. You're very proud of your, your upbringing. Do you feel like that's a legitimate soundscape?
It's an immediate soundscape of the Latin culture. It's an immediate recognition. Like you hear that and you're like, yes, Latin.
And not
music.
A caricature though. Not like a funny take on it, like a legitimate.
Yeah, this music is like it makes you feel something. This makes you feel like it's Latin music. Whether it's really Latin music or not, I mean, like, who really cares at this point, right? But like, you listen to that and it takes you into that world. And I think that's what's great about it. I mean, there is sort of the limitations of what video game music sounded like at that time,
right.
So it's all like probably done at a keyboard or something. But no, that's awesome.
Have you ever played Halo?
Maybe like momentarily.
This theme, the Halo 2 Mjolnir mix of the main theme from Halo, which you know the Halo theme song.
Yeah.
All right, now let's take a step back and let's listen to the Halo themes. It's like when you hear Carmen in a commercial. You've never heard this piece? If you don't know it by now, you don't know it. Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I'm sure it's into my soundscape at some point, but I just
yeah. All right.
In a way that I can recognize.
It's fun. It's a good one. It's a classic.
Oh, no way on those strings.
Nice big strings down there. Yeah.
I get vibes of like Pirates of the Caribbean a little bit. They've got sort of like the native sort of.
There's a tribal quality in it, right?
Tribal quality, yeah. The beginning of the Gregorian chant, like it's all sort of layered, different things going on.
The strings are really nice. The super like galvanizing theme, right, of like marching forward towards something. Yeah.
Yeah, like the war drums also the
yeah. And then you get the anvil in the back.
There you go, a little anvil and opera homage there.
That's like one of the most iconic video game pieces ever. And what's really nice about it actually is how it uses the male chorus. Marty is like a classically trained composer. He composed for a game as well, Destiny. They're so classically based. Like that bookending thing is such a thing that we hear all the time in classical music.
It's super creative and it immediately puts you into a world. Everything that is being used is something that is really evocative of something that we're already familiar with. Like the fact that we're able to identify okay, this sounds like chant. Okay, this kind of sounds like war drums. It takes all these things that we're going to be associating with something.
Yeah.
And they put it together to already create some sort of a story, that we...
I'm sorry. My shirt says send noodles.
Oh, bro, I'm in China.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, it puts you in a spot. It's kind of programmatic, like opera, right? Because like you immediately, when you hear the overture of Tosca, boom, 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 cha, you immediately know where you are and what the stakes are, right?
Yeah, but I think that's because we know the opera, right? Like when you hear that for the first time, do you feel like it's already evoking something that you already know? Like this, I heard it for the first time, and it's things that I already was familiar with being used to create something.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, this is from a game called Kingdom Hearts. This piece, Dearly Beloved, is stunning. A really, really beautiful song. What do you make of that?
It's gorgeous. I thought about saying things while it was happening, but I kind of just wanted to take that in. That was a soundtrack to something tender, something beautiful. Like that was the music I want to be playing when I'm sharing a special moment.
I think it's an interesting thing when someone is allowing themselves to emotionally be vulnerable to a piece of music rather than looking at it from a critical and technical perspective. It's such an interesting delineation that both exist within music and both are required to do it as a profession. But I sometimes think that we get caught up in the technicality and we forget to take a step back and just like admire how gorgeous this stuff is, even on its own merit, you know?
Music doesn't have to be complicated, right? And some of the most beautiful, revered music out there is not complicated. As long as it makes you feel something, that's the purpose of music.
There's a really awesome track from this game called Warframe that I put like 140 hours in recently. It's called This Is What You Are. When I found out that my dad was sick, and I know you know all about this, I would go to the gym and I would physically push myself to the point of like what I felt was breaking myself, because I felt that maybe through my suffering, I could heal some of my dad's suffering. And so I have a very tender spot. I don't play it often for people because it's a very heavy emotional feeling for me, but I also love it so much.
Whoa, what a journey, man. There are so many things to love about that. I feel like that was a little essay on like theme and exposition. Ya, da, 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 da. That's it. Like, what does that mean to you? And it's like, let me show you how many different things that can mean to you. How much is packed into that little sequence. You start off with that. It's a vocal thing. Okay, sort of sets the mood. And then they add what sounds like an arhu. Already you get this East meets West sort of thing. For people that don't study music, or people don't dedicate their lives to it, it's like you hear a melody and you think, okay, this is a melody, but this like guides you through how much you can pack into this melody, how much you can take out of it, and how much it can actually take you on this journey. And then it backs off a little bit, and then you have more of the percussion and some of the vocals, and then this whole orchestra comes in at the end, and then you add the arhu and the strings and everything, and you're just like, that was all packed in to that one little
It's almost like the melody's a seed. And all as we build and build and build, the tree gets bigger and it grows.
That's exactly what it is, like the seed. That's a beautiful thing, that it's packed into this. A giant tree is stuck in that seed.
Let's stay in that, actually, that east meets west here. This particular theme, Rage Beneath the Mountains, tells the story of this ancient dragon god. And they actually use ancient Chinese as text. Obviously, the big horns represent this dragon, you know. Here it comes. Yeah.
I love that sound.
The arhu is like so warm. Oh. Randomly, you know, like guitar there.
Yeah. That's cool, the combination of the guitars and the arhu.
Yeah.
That's cool. Having spent so much time in China the past 5 years of my career, I have such an affinity for those sounds that immediately when I hear it, I'm sort of transported to a different soundscape. And I think it's such a missed opportunity for collaboration. In the Western classical world, we think Europe, that's where our tonal language comes from. That's where music comes from. We think of that as high art music. We don't look at the rest of the world when we think of the musical traditions of value. And so when you're in a place that you realize has historical musical tradition that goes back further than the European one, and you think, how is it that we don't consider this when we think about the great musical traditions of the world? Anytime you get a chance to combine two different cultures musically, you're going to end up with something that is just more rich. And I think I'm sort of realizing in the video game world, this isn't a big deal. This isn't something that is that novel. It's just a different way to tell a story. And I think that they nail it right on the head.
I want to play something for you that actually was pretty brazen for the same company. It's called The Divine Damsel of Devastation. And it's actually the first time that that Chinese opera was brought to a Western audience. And as you can imagine, the reception was mixed because a lot of people, younger people especially, were sort of confused by the soundscape of the Chinese opera singing.
Yo, that's cool. The first time I heard this live, it blew my mind, sort of the type of vocal production that happens, you know, and I was like, I can't do that. Like, how does that work? The art form in itself is fascinating. Looking at this, it was interesting because mine had the titles were on. I kind of got distracted by that because I think I was trying to make sense of the plot story by looking at the titles, and I was like, that's getting in my way right now of appreciating what's happening. And I think that whenever you're faced with good art, is that like you don't need that explanation. You need the experience of having an experience,
letting it wash over you and letting it be a part of that. Yeah, I think we get hung up on really, I need to understand this, and a lot of times it's actually like, well, no, actually, sometimes it's okay to not know what the hell you're looking at or what you're hearing and just sort of like ride the wave. Let's pivot back to a Latin soundscape. Just wait till you hear what I've got in store for you with Zero. You feel that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the tacones, you've got the hand percussions, you've got the muted strings, the strumming, the rhythm on the guitar.
Yeah. Here you go. Well, I mean, it's just like
bananas.
Yeah. The counter harmony there is just
Yo, what would this look like on stage?
There's a a cappella version, or hold on.
I'm always amazed by the sound of an orchestra and how versatile it is.
Yeah. That solo soprano just cutting over top is so like.
That's beautiful. They must have added something here, though, right?
That's not layering.
First of all, that's exactly what I was talking about. The force is required to do something like that. You're still able to do that live. I mean, that's what I love about live music, is that you can create that, right? Here's my question. If you didn't know it was a video game composer, if you just saw it, you know, like, what would get people in to see something like that? How would you advertise that?
That's the question. Do you just do a video game concert? Do you integrate this stuff? Do you not tell anybody that you have video game stuff on the program so that, because I'm sorry, but no one outside of the video game music sphere, they would not know who Keiki Kobayashi is. But if you're like Keiki Kobayashi 0, they'd be like, oh, must be a new composer. But Keiki Kobayashi's been composing in Japan for X amount of years. Sure. That's the thing that kind of irritates me, is that we have this divide where we have our beautiful little categories where we have, well, this is video game music. This is pops music. This is classical high art.
Here's the fascinating thing, and I run into this question all the time. What is the difference between art and entertainment? Entertainment is commercially driven. Entertainment is supposed to make money. Art has no commercial delineation, like it's not designed to make money. It doesn't mean that entertainment doesn't include art in it. Of course it does, right? But I think that's the big delineation that we run into, is that people separate these things. And is it worth separating? I don't know. I mean, like, that's what I wonder. If this were not tied to a video game, if this were just a composition that he made, would it have the same draw? Would it have the same value? And would it be thought of the same way?
That's the thing that really rubs me, is that it's like all this music is legitimate art. It's legitimate art, and it's legitimate music that could, for the most part, it's depending on what I'm playing for you, exists in a symphony hall.
Well, here's the thing, right? And this is the question. That music is designed to make you like it because it needs commercial viability.
So music that is written for the sake of being written is somehow deeper than the music that is being made because you want people to like it?
It's not deeper. I don't think it necessarily has more value, but
no.
I don't know. But I think that is the delineation that happens. Like, this music, you can't take a chance with, or maybe you can. I don't know. Play me some terrible video game music that nobody likes.
Yeah, I mean, here you go. Spider-Man 2, the game pizza theme. I mean, it's just a ton of 10, right? It's gonna be the top. Okay, this isn't necessarily terrible. Here's terrible. I got you. Sonic Chronicles of the Dark Brotherhood Central City. You can't tell me that's good.
That sounds like my counterpoint composition exercise is like music theory.
What you're saying is there's no bad video game music because writing bad music is not possible, because you can't ship a product out that has bad music.
I don't know. It just occurred to me, like, as we're having this conversation, right? Like, if it has to go through so many hands, if it has to have so many eyes on it, like, there has to be a general consensus of what is good, what is effective, what is going to make sense in the moment. And is that a bad thing? Maybe, I mean, if all operas did that, we would have sweet operas. But at that point, you could also just ask an AI bot to do it. Because at that point, it's just a collection of things that we know are going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting perspective that I've never thought of. Because to me, I've just always felt like, oh, what a huge treasure trove of really talented composers. But yeah, like, why does everything sound good? Do I care?
That's the biggest question, right?
Should we listen to some more perfect video game music?
Yeah, it's so delightful. Like, why wouldn't I want to listen to it?
The song is called They Might As Well Be Dead from Risk of Rain 2.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like synth quality.
That's cool. Like, what's happening in the game while this music is playing?
I'm assuming you're on a planet, you're shooting things. It's the type of game where, like, if you die, you restart from the very beginning.
Well, it's just curious because this one to me is like, I like the soundscape of it, but as like a composition, it's just sort of, it's like, okay, it's going to start out chill. All right, then it's going to kind of grow. It's going to kind of grow, and then it just kind of grows, but it doesn't find its way into a real arc.
I love that song. But again, I think it has to do with my own personal context because that music reminds me of the music that I was listening to when I was a kid with my dad. And I feel like that's probably why I'm so attached to that piece. But it's interesting how you're like, well, what's happening? Because that doesn't necessarily have like a through line.
Well, that's the big thing about music, right? Is that like everyone interprets it. We can all be listening to the same thing, and yet we all have a different reaction to it.
Let's listen to a couple opera tracks. It's called Morning Light Hymnus. It's from a game called Grand Blue Fantasy.
Organ in there. Sounds like Carmina.
Yeah, they all do. When there's opera involved.
We all know people that are metalheads and opera buffs, right? There is that sort of draw between like what is super hardcore about metal and what is super hardcore about the physical act of singing opera. It just kind of works together. The thing that trips me up about stuff like this, like as a singer, I'm like, you can't sing over that. There's something that feels not natural about that soundscape, which is also the appealing part of it, right?
I just imagine like a full-blown like mass, like a Bach St. Matthew Passion, but prog rock with opera underneath and with a chorus. And I just think like how crazy it would be if you were to just stick that in an opera hall.
That would be awesome. Could you do it on mic though?
No, you'd have to mic, but who cares?
Man, I don't know. I think something gets lost when you mic. We create sound waves, right? Like that is sound traveling through space and it's vibration. When you hear a human voice in a live space, that voice is physically that person reaching out through space and touching you. As soon as you put it through a speaker, it's not a human voice anymore, right? What I think is so emotional about hearing a baby cry, about hearing someone scream, about hearing someone laugh, is that someone is touching you through space. I think there's a different visceral human reaction to that. I don't know, maybe I'm spending too much time in concert halls and opera houses.
I mean, it's interesting. And then here's another one, God Shattering Star from Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is like the closest thing to an opera aria, I would say, or a tenor aria. And I don't necessarily like the singer in it, but it's a pretty powerful piece of music. That's high. Yeah. They're B flat. I'm working on it. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Oh, it just goes right back to it too.
Back up to the middle. It's all fucking brutal. His larynx just gets higher and higher.
All right, of all the things that I've heard today, that to me was the thing I'm probably the most intrigued by and got most excited by. At least coming from the human voice standpoint and the operatic standpoint. Like,
yeah, of course.
That's not easy, but I think that's possible. I think that's what gets me so excited about that. I want to see someone do that.
For people that don't know, I mean, this is like so high, and also when it's not high, it's also sitting in the middle. It just creeps into the. So if we think about the voice, the lower part is like a think of an hourglass, right? The lower part, and I'm not talking to you, Jose, because I know you know this, but the lower part of, could you imagine, Jose, let me explain this to you. The lower part of the voice is like an hourglass, the bottom half. Then as you come up into the middle voice, where we switch into kind of a head voice. You ever seen the Glenn Close where she goes, and the home of the free,
for the land of the free.
It's so funny because she hits her cap and then she has to switch into head voice to get up to the upper register. It's so funny. So then we thin out and then we open back up. That's the problem with an aria like this that's incredibly brutal. And because you're so intrigued, I've got one more for you called Astalgia of Phantasm that's live. Yeah. The third time.
Jeez. I can get goosebumps though, man. Are you kidding me?
And it's effortless for her. It's stunning.
I love this conductor too.
Yeah.
A little delayed response on the applause. I would make her jumping out of my seat at the end of that.
I listen to that and I'm like, that is the goods. You know, that's the good stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how you would deny, being emotionally invested in what's happening. That shit is exciting. It is visceral. It is in your face. That'll scrape the paint off the walls, To me, there's an element though that seeing it live, like seeing the forces put into that, feeling that the energy of it is so different when I'm watching, even if it's a video of it. We know what goes into creating those sounds. We know what goes into the conductor, all that energy. It's just this like a nuclear core that's just burning, and we feel all that energy in there.
I know. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And I think you brought up some really good points that are definitely going to make me think about stuff. But also in general, I think it's really good to get someone who appreciates what's up here, but also has the intelligence to be like, but is there more? Could it be more? And what does it look like if it is more?
Like the questions are also more important to ask ourselves, right? Like, why do we think this is more valuable? Why do we look at art different than entertainment? Like, what is those? Like, are we just stuck in this world where we want to like create a divide here? Because again, all this music creates emotion. It creates a human emotion. If that's not what art is, then I don't know what it is, right? A lot of these things, I was just like playing devil's advocate, being like, okay, but is there a distinction? What is that distinction? What does that say to us about humans? Are we going down a dark path, or are we just trying to hold on to something that really has no value, or the value is perceived as a
way to distinguish one class from a different class? Those are the questions that are interesting to me.
Feel free to check out Jose. All his information is in the About section. And yeah, thanks a ton, Jose, and we'll see y'all later, okay? Bye, everybody.
All right.
See you later.